Welcome everybody to a special history lesson. Today I have a very special guest from the J.V.C. Force and QNC. We have none other than Curt Cazel. Thank you so much for joining me.
What's goody? Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for having me.
No doubt. We want to take it all the way back and then what you have going on. You have a lot of things going on in 2025. We want to get to that. But before we
Absolutely.
do that, take us back to where you were born and raised.
Good question. Originally from the Caribbean, Barbados, where my fam, everybody's from, and came here straight to Brooklyn, Nostrand, Linden, the whole 9 yards. Did the Caribbean thing, and then moved out to Long Island. So I rolled out Long Island. Been there since ever since we came here. So that's been it.
So take us back to a day in the life of Curt, teenage years, Long Island.
Wow. Uh that's crazy. Just at the end of high school, we started going to going in the basement, going in the garage, doing routines and such after school and such. And just trying to get up some money to go to the studio, excuse me. Still coming over that cold. Um and we did try to get up some money to do some studio time. Again, I think spoke about this before, where I had this concept as a young kid that to do a 5 minute song was like 5 minutes in the studio.
Mhm.
So that really was a lesson learned quickly.
Right.
Um, but yeah, we just hung out, wrote stuff together in everybody's houses, and I would go back in the garage late at night, do the beats and stuff like that, and do some arranging, and just back at it again.
What came first for you, DJing or producing?
DJing for sure.
Okay.
DJing was absolutely.
Give us a timeline of getting into, being a DJ.
DJing actually came to me through like some family friends. I used to stay out in Hempstead, New York, and one of the older brother had a crew that used to switch the equipment from time to time through each other's houses. So most of the time I came by, the equipment was there, or it was just up the block. So I would follow wherever the equipment went, and these guys would be spinning and playing music and such, and different genres actually, because there was another guy that was around the corner that he spun mostly house and dance stuff. So he's doing the blends, these dudes doing the cutting and scratching, and then it was one MC. So I was just watching that like probably like 14, and then had my dad take my birthday money and we bought some turntables that weren't exactly Techniques, but were made by Panasonic, and from actually J.C. Penney or Macy's, I believe it was. Excuse me. And those turntables actually went on tour with us for J.V.C. in Germany and a few other countries. That was not a good idea, but they thugged it out.
What year
Um,
was that about, that you start into DJing?
that's probably 84, 85.
Okay.
Well, that's when I got introduced to it. When I got my turntable, it was probably about 85.
Okay.
Um, yeah, probably about 85, because we were still in school. I was still trying to get the grades to stay where I can actually spin on the turntable. So,
Right. Were you a part of any other groups prior to JVC?
not really. We started JVC with a couple of other guys, and then they fell off, and a couple of girls that joined in, and then B Love, and then I think B Love brought in AJ. So it was a couple of it just was different formations over time. But at that time, everybody was like, if it's not going anywhere immediately, then you get some drop offs here and there. I mean, no fault of their own. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Right.
But if that was kind of the case, and then we formed, and it just became the three of us because that's who wanted to put up money for studio time.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about the early formation, those guys and girls prior to B Love and AJ Rock?
That was a high school formation. That was a couple of girls that were rapping that were in the school. It sounded pretty good. A couple of guys that were rapping, and we just formed. I would DJ, keep the beat, just keep the beat spinning and keep all that going. And then um, they would just come over the house. We practice on like Fridays after school, and we just hang out and do what we do. And nothing was really structured. It was just cassette tapes of us doing what we do. Um, and I think I found one the other day too. Excuse me.
Mhm.
It was a Scotch tape, not to be mixed up with Scotch tape, but it was a Scotch tape. So I dare not play it though, because it's probably the last time it will actually get played. But I was not rapping at that time at all, so that was just me DJing, doing what I could.
Right. So at what point did B Love and AJ form the group?
B Love and I started DJing together, just doing parties and such, and high school stuff, all the dances and things like that. And then he formed into doing the rapping, and that's when he brought in AJ. And that's probably the end of 87, 88 after we graduated. I was going to Hofstra at that time to college out in Hempstead for some reason. But yeah, we used to have the Jets camp one time, and I was going there and going there early in the morning so I can get back to engineer, which might be a fast forward, but yeah, we'll get back so we can record things like that.
So at what point do you get into producing and engineering?
At that point when we were doing the demos, I would just basically try to figure out certain beats that we liked and how to extend them. And I would get my Sanyo out and the boombox and start doing pause tapes to extend the beat if I couldn't, if I didn't have two or I couldn't keep it running long enough. And we coordinated like that. Um, After a couple times, we probably decided we were going to do something just off the cuff. And that was New School. We paid money to go in, which was the B side of Strong Island. We paid money to go in the studio to do New School, and that we had no clue. So we're actually sitting there trying to come up with all. We had ideas of how the beat was supposed to go in the bass line, but it was mostly being done on the spot. So the engineer, he was there, Charlie Murata, and he's doing it, and here we are, and it's just taking time and taking time. And ran out of money, so excuse me. So we had to come back in and finish that off before we could get anything further going. Uh, So that's how the producing started. I didn't really know what that was or what I was doing. I was just putting together these tracks so we can rhyme on them and everything would be consistent.
Right. Talk a little bit about paying dues and getting your guys' name out there prior to demos and record deal.
As far as we were concerned, we were kind of fortunate, but yet unfortunate at the same time. We sent out a couple of demos because again at that time that was kind of fresh and new. But everybody was doing it pretty much EPMD. They were in the same studio, so we were sharing studio time if we had to do anything with them. They were trying to get their thing going. So we really didn't have a rough time because the second song that we actually ever did was Strong Island. And I did it, the structure all in my garage. And then I gave it to these guys and they went about, Bill, I think, was doing most of the writing. So he wrote most of his stuff to that. And I came up with the hook already, which is still kind of what I do today. Even with the production that I do, I give it to them with the hooks for the most part, because that's how it comes to me. If they decided it doesn't work, then cool. But most of the time, that's how I feel it at the time. So I structure it like that. But yeah, so we did Strong Island, and that's how the deal went down with B-Boy. They were kind of like the second label to hit us back. And again, because KRS and Boogie Down was on there, we were like, well, we don't really even have to go any further. Let's go. So that's how that worked out. Again, fortunate, but not fortunate. So
Talk a little bit about that creative process of Strong Island, such a classic, monumental track. Take us back to where Curt was at mentally going into that track.
I had the early classes in college, so I was doing accounting. So that was a different situation, but you had a different energy at that age, so you're just going. At that time, I didn't know what we were supposed to be doing, but I was going through some records like I normally do, stealing up my dad's records like usual, and then just listening to things, and then I found this particular drum that I liked, and I was like, oh, this could work. And I think I paused it up a couple of different times so I can get a feel for what I was doing with it. And I still stay up late to this day, and I stayed up late that night and did a couple of variations with this beat because I liked the beat. I was working with that. Did a couple of variations of it with different bass lines, or it was like 2 or 3 different bass lines or different sounds, and I was just fiddling around trying to get a groove. And then when I was looking through the record, I ended up going back to the record for some reason, because I either think I chopped off something or didn't have enough beat and had to add it back, and I put on the wrong side. And I think that's when I found the other piece to what Strong Island ended up being. Um, but at that time, you really didn't have a necessary feel. Like you would, with a little bit of experience, a little bit of years under your belt, you get that feel where it's like, oh, this has something, something different to it, or whatever. It was just us having, me having fun, having the opportunity to do it, and it sounded pretty good. So I was like, hey, so I gave them two variations, the last ones, one with the horn and one without, with a bass line that was completely different. And they were like, no, that's this one right here. That's the one I'm gonna go home. And Bill said, B said I'm gonna write, and we'll come back in a couple of days and we'll practice. We'll practice our routines. We'll get it together and just let us know. And I think the next day or so, I tried to get a hook for it. Again, didn't really exactly know what the hook situation was back then. Excuse me, but so I had a hook. I knew how long it was supposed to be, but we didn't know how long the verses were supposed to be. So those verses kind of ran long. But yeah, so when we got together, it was just like, okay, it wasn't like, okay, well, okay, B, you got it. The verses are cool and everything, but they're like 24, 24 verses. 24 bars long here on each one of them. So that wasn't the case. It was just like, oh, that sounds cool. Let's go get the money up and let's do it. And that's how we structured that one out. So yeah, that's how that pretty much fell together. So it was kind of fortunate how things went together. It's just we probably should have waited a little bit longer with the B-boy, except that was, they were hot at the time. I mean, I think Bridges Over and all that stuff was hot at the time. There was no getting around it. But that was just before, at the time we were signing, that was just around the time he was going through his business with them. So by the time we signed, he was kind of off like the next week or something like that. So it was like, whoa, and here we are now. So that was that.
Right. So Strong Island was on the demo that you gave the B-boy?
Yes. On the demos we sent out, it was Strong Island and New School. I don't remember if that version was the one that's on the single that we gave out, but after we did Strong Island, they said, well, you need a B-side, so you got to go in and do something with the B-side. And I think that's we restructured the New School, because we didn't really know what we were doing, and we didn't mix it, because we were like, oh, wait a minute, it took X amount of hours just to record it. Now we got to do what with it now? So we didn't know there was a mixing process and that whole sort of